What's going on, YouTube? This is Gabrielle with the Gift of Gab coming at you with a Real Housewives of Atlanta Season 7 Reunion Part 1 review. I had to go back and rewatch it because I needed to take notes because I watched that since it's late in the week. I had to rewatch it. That Love and Hip Hop, Real Housewives of New York, and I also watched the second part of the reunion to the R&B divas. So I needed to take notes in order to be able to do the videos on all of those. I'll do 3 of those tonight, and probably I'll get around to the Real Housewives of New York tomorrow. So anyway, we start with Andy talking to Nene about her new house, and he compares it to Chateau Charade. And she says pretty much the only difference between her and Chateau Charade is that hers is paid for, and she doesn't think that Charade has moved in. I do believe, from what I've seen on the internet, I think it's a site called TamraTattles.com. She showed the progress of Chateau Charade. I think Charade sued this lady. I cannot remember, but I think she sued her for getting pictures from the property or something like that. And so fans still send pictures to the website, and she still updates it. It looks really good now. It has, it doesn't have that big lime green, or was it lime? The big green stuff on the outside. It doesn't have that anymore. The paper or whatever, I can't remember what it's called, but it doesn't have it anymore. Whatever brickwork and stonework and blockwork they were doing for the front, they did that. The lights were on the inside, but I don't think the house is complete. I would love for Sheree to come back if Nene is going to come back. Simply because Sheree was an original. Sheree's story, this for everything she's doing, is much better in my opinion than what we've been seeing from these, I want to say, new women. I just want to see Sheree back. Let's just put it like that. So anyway, Andy goes on through talking to, saying hello to the women. He tells Candy, she's coming up on her 1-year anniversary. She says yes. He asked Kenya about her new man. He asked if he's an African prince, and she's like, no. And, it was the man that she met on Millionaire Matchmaker named James. I looked on her Instagram online from Twitter, and she hasn't really posted anything since the show. So I don't know if they're just, I haven't really seen her post anything about any man. So I think she's one of those people who, I think she got smart after Walter. Call me crazy, but I don't think she paid Walter. I think Walter was an opportunist, and he was trying to get his toe business out there. And he might not have wanted to date Kenya realistically, but he did see a good opportunity with the show. And so I think that Kenya learned her lesson, especially with him going out saying that she paid him and all that stuff. I think she learned her lesson, and she doesn't want to bring another man on the show unless, they're legit engaged or something, or, something to where it's a real story behind it, and we get to, really see that and not really have a lot of negative to say about it. So, I'm hoping we get to see James if she comes back, but if not, I wouldn't be surprised. Anywho, we go to Cynthia. Now, on the ladies' looks, a lot of people do not like Cynthia's hair. I like Cynthia's hair, except for the fact that you cannot see a part in her wig. I like the volume of it. I like the kinkiness, the kinky look of it. But I don't like when you can't see a part in a wig or just any hairstyle. Sew in, when it's a full sew in and it don't have the invisible part or something. I don't like that, but I like the style of it. I wouldn't wear it personally, but I liked it on Cynthia. He said hey to Claudia. I don't remember if she said anything. And he also spoke to Phaedra, and I don't remember him saying anything to her either. Well, I know this is Claudia. He just said that this was Claudia's first reunion. So anyway, they showed the commercial for the wigs. I thought it was a little weird to show at the beginning of the reunion. I was thinking maybe they could have saved it towards the end to kind of bring some levity, or just to kind of ease the tension or something, and make a joke, or maybe just show it after the first segment as a commercial, even though it's attached to the actual segment, and then just have it as the first commercial break, just for you to laugh on your way to the something. But I didn't think that that was the right place to put it. I did laugh when at the end of the commercial it said, "Do not glue the wigs to your foreheads, and beware of hair burglars." And I don't know if people noticed that, but I mean, I don't know if they would have did that on any other franchise of Real Housewives, the New York, the Beverly Hills, or whatever. But I mean, it is what it is. I just thought that it was in the wrong place. That was pretty much it. So anyway, he moves on to King. Well, he tells Kenya that he asked about her hair, and she says she has a little added in because she has a ponytail added in, and Andy says, "No, you have a lot." I mean, I don't really get what's up with Andy and Kenya's hair, but I don't really get what the problem is with Kenya's hair, period, or why people are really obsessed about Kenya's hair not being real. I don't understand it. I mean, is it that far-fetched that a black woman has long hair naturally? I don't get it. But anyway, I could see a little jealousy because when she said, "I have 24 inches of my own hair," Nene rolled her eyes. Now, we all saw Nene's real hair about 4 seasons ago when it was like stuck to her head, and it was like brown and really, really thin and cut real short. I mean, if a lace front works for you, then work your lace front, but just wear it right, or wear at least a lace front that looks realistic. I think that should be the rule. If you wear a lace front, at least wear one that looks realistic. And I don't think that any of Nene's look realistic. What I liked was back when she was on Celebrity Apprentice, whatever season that she was on the Real Housewives of Atlanta, where she had the two-tone going on. That was the best that I've really seen Nene. I don't know if it was a sew-in or what it was, or a 27-piece, but I like that on Nene instead of these wigs. I'm not understanding the wigs at all. Anywho, so let me speed on through the rest of this because there's a lot going on. So the first person they start with on the package is Nene. And it shows Nene, pretty much, most of it was pretty much Nene getting ready for Broadway. And the last part of the package was Nene saying, "Say anything you want to say. I'm on Broadway while you're at home." And that's one of those things that made me say, I can't stand Nene no more. You want to congratulate Nene and say, "You know what, you done stuck through here for 7 seasons and you done lasted longer than everybody. And you've used your platform to get to Broadway, get on Glee TV and all that good stuff, Dance with the Stars and all that." And that's good because you were nobody before this. We can't say it about nobody else on the show with a peach. And Nene has finagled her way all the way into Hollywood and all that good stuff. Because before, like she said, she was going to pilot season. Nobody was picking up in pilot season when she was Nobody Leaks. But once she became Nene Leaks of the Real Housewives, she was able to get picked up in some pilots. So I think it's good. I just don't like that superior attitude, like as Candy would say. I don't like that about her at all. Andy asked Claudia about the SOS event and why she had to say something to Nene at the SOS event. She pretty much said because that's the only time that I could say something, because we never get to really, be with her, because Nene really did seem like she stopped filming with the girls pretty much after the therapy session. She stopped. So the only time I guess that was the last scene they shot from what I read, Nene and Phaedra had stopped filming with the girls. So I'm guessing they had to go back and reshoot some stuff or something like that after the Philippines or something like that. So it was the last chance. If you notice that was the last scene that we even seen Nene with all the women. So it makes sense what Claudia said. You have to take those shots when you can get them. but it did look bad. It made Claudia look bad. It really did look bad. Because it seemed like she was chasing her. And Nene makes a big deal about how all the women want to come for her in her spot or whatever, because she's the biggest on the show or whatever. She's the queen bee of the show. So, I mean, I understand where Claudia's coming from, but at the same time, she did look bad when she was doing it. Um, Andy asked Nene about Bryson, and she says he's fine. He's 25. I mean, him being grown is cool, but when anybody has a child on the show at some point, we all kind of want to know what's going on. And then especially if I had a child who was in the blogs for being on crack or stealing or having, I think that somewhere I read he had 4 kids now. I didn't really read a lot into it. But just the stuff that they have on the blogs about him, it's a good time to clear that up, just to say, I read stuff on the blogs that's not true, or, whatever. But hey, if you don't want to talk about it, that's fine too. We'll just go off the blogs and see what they have or whatever. Les, I did see he did have a job being a waiter, a terrible waiter, but he did have a job, so that was good because he can support his child or children, whichever it is. So anyway, the next thing was Annie brought up that Nene said something about she tweeted that she can't wait to see this girl at the reunion because she wants to find out why she hates her so much. And he asked who she was speaking about. She said Candy. So this is when they get into this disagreement about how Candy says she feels like when she says something, when Nene says certain things, she's waiting on a pity party or whatever. And Nene's like, no, I don't want a pity party. And Candy says, well, I don't really hate you. I just hate your superiority complex over all these women, especially in our group. I don't like when you talk down to us. And realistically, this has been the first season where we've actually been able to talk. Because we've always been really bumping heads and getting into it. And Nene was like, well, no, why are we into it? And she said, well, last reunion, you said something about my mom or something like that. And Nene was like, no, I didn't. So they flashed back to last reunion where Nene was saying that Candy's mom was, I can't remember if it was Hood or something, but she was saying about how Candy's mom was trying to fight, I believe her name is Crystal, at the bridal store. And after that, Nene says, I know you want to focus on me. And I think that's exactly what Candy meant, because it's like nobody can disagree or talk to Nene without her having this. I mean, if she runs out of arguments and defenses, her last thing to say is, I know you want to come for me because I'm the queen bee, I'm the top dog. So once this happens and nobody's really like checking for it, she starts this victim stuff. Like, okay, you know what? Forget it. I'm right, you're wrong. So that was like her answer for all the rest of the questions from here on out. And it is what it is. So while she's talking, Candy brings up the fact that she doesn't really hate her, but the fact that Phaedra confided in Nene about her, that bothered her, because and Nene says, well, the thing that really made me know that you hate me is because you told Phaedra that if you could, if you could forgive Nene, then you can definitely forgive Candy and Kenya. And she brings up that, that Kenya was supposed to have flirted and tried to sleep with Apollo, and that Cynthia brought up Phaedra trying to sleep with some dude named Chocolate or whatever. And since we're on it, the whole chocolate thing, I had this conversation with my husband when it first came out, and I told him, this is how I truly feel. I said, I think it happened, but I think what she did was she was trying to be slick because she has a friend named White Chocolate. So, you know how when a man is cheating and he tries to put different names in his phone, when it's different women, he'll put it down as Carl or Chris or, my homie, or just some that the girlfriend won't think of to check. So So if it say it's work and it's another female, you're not thinking, let me check, let me answer the work, his people calling him from work, because, I don't want to do that. But if it was, Ashley calling, you, or pick up the phone and answer it. So if Chris is calling, you kind of like, okay, it's his homeboy, I ain't gonna answer that. So I'm thinking, well, what I thought was, she put Chocolate down as whoever this guy is, as her friend White Chocolate. So if anybody were to see it, they wouldn't think anything when Chocolate is coming through the phone, because they see her friend White Chocolate's name. So, you just put that together and say, hey, it was her friend White Chocolate. I don't honestly think that Apollo made up these text messages. Why? Because Apollo ain't that smart. If he was that smart, he wouldn't be in prison. I don't think he was putting those fake VINs and stuff together. I think he had somebody else who was doing that. And that's why I don't think the text messages were made up. I don't see him going that far to make her look bad. I really don't. I didn't see no vendetta. I didn't really see any kind of vendetta against her or anything with him being negative this season. I felt like they were just going through a divorce. And I don't think that he was trying to purposely put out on the show certain things, because I just feel like, I honestly thought that he was being honest. Even as a criminal, I thought he was being honest, especially when he told us how Phaedra was sleeping on air mattresses when he got out. His stories just sound more realistic than Phaedra's do. They just really do. They sound more honest than Phaedra's do. And I'm sorry, but I don't know. I believe whatever the name of the guy is, I believe that's what it is. I don't know if it's Chocolate or if it's an African guy, but I do think it was another guy she was talking to. I mean, it was just that, whatever. So anyway, she said, like I was saying, she said, Cynthia was saying that her husband Apollo cheated on her, and she was like, Cynthia said, well, no, we only got into it one time. Well, Candy was saying it, and Cynthia agreed that they only got into it one time over one thing, and Kenya was saying, well, that never happened. And so that it really didn't go together why Nene felt like that was cool, but Candy was just like, Nene has been saying stuff since Phaedra got on the show. She called her the head doctor last season. Before that, she was playing Jane. Before that, just always something with Nene for no reason attacking Phaedra. So she was like, it just didn't make sense for her to say that Nene is my rock just because I didn't call her as many times or text her as many times as she wanted me to. So now we get to where Phaedra says, I never talked to Nene about you. However, we saw on the season that Nene brought up Candy. No, not Nene. It was Nene and Portia talking to Phaedra together, and they were asking her about Candy, and Phaedra was like, I don't know what's going on, but it sure is weird. So I don't know if it's just clearly lying or they just didn't really remember. Because I can understand it's 3 or 4 months ago, so you don't remember all the stuff that you say or do. So she did talk to Phaedra about Nene. About Candy, but it is what it is. I don't think that Phaedra really wants to be Candy's friend no more anyway. Nene has this thing where if I'm not her friend, you can't be her friend or you can't be mine. You got to choose one or the other. Besides with Cynthia, we've seen it with just about all the girls she's been friends with. So you have to pick and choose. If you want to be friends with Nene, you're going to have to give up something. And we saw that with Phaedra this season. Every time Nene gets a new friend, they lose whichever person that Nene don't like. They have to lose that friend. And if they choose not to, then they get kicked to the curb. And now you see Cynthia and Kenya are friends. So it is what it is. Now, we get to this part where Candy lets us know that Nene sent text messages that Cynthia and her had together to all the other ladies, to where Cynthia was talking about them. Now, nobody ever brought these text messages up or said anything negative to Cynthia during the season. I really wanted to know what it was, just because that's shady. And I think that for Nene to do that shows her real character. We already knew that Nene was shady, but now it's just That was just real low. How could you? And anyway, it went to Candy's point that Nene is a shady person, and she ain't the type of female that you need to be friends with, and that's just true. Just based off what she did and what she's shown and how she's acted, it just makes Candy seem right in my eyes. It does. So now we go to Phaedra and Apollo, or Phaedra's package, and mostly it's Apollo. Um, Phaedra starts out with these excuses of why she's not taking the kids to Kentucky to the prison where Apollo is. What I can say is, if I had kids and their father was in prison, and everybody already knew he was in prison, and at some point these kids were going to see on the clip as she said, on the TV, as she says that their father is in prison and she didn't take them. It would be my business if I didn't take my kids and why or whatever. If I just didn't want to take them because I just didn't want to take them, I wouldn't take them. However, the excuses she gives are ridiculous. I got a 1-year-old baby in Pampers. I can't feed them. You got to stand outside in the snow with no boots on, with just your feet, and walk 5 miles to get there. And it don't give excuses. Just say, look, I don't want to take them because I don't want to take them. And that's it. Leave it at that. And we have a choice but to accept it. But when you give excuses, it just makes you look like more of a liar, Phaedra. I just hate that. I hate that you lie so much. And it seems like it's habitual. Or is it habitual? Yeah, I think it's habitual. I believe Phaedra is a habitual liar. And I understand she's a lawyer, but dang, that's a lot. She lies a lot. Anywho, Andy asked Cynthia about, how she feels about it. And Cynthia says, it's not my place to speak on their marriage. And I'm glad she said that because it shows that she learned her lesson after bringing up the whole chocolate situation with the text messages. Even if nobody agreed with what Cynthia did, which I don't believe anybody did, because it was just awkward. I understand that the producers told her to do it and she just didn't feel comfortable doing it, which is why you could tell when she did it that it just wasn't right. She learned, look, I'm staying out of that from now on. I ain't got nothing to say. It is what it is. So, left it there. He asked Candy about it. Candy said, I've been to that prison. It's not that big a deal. She could take him if she wanted to. It is what it is. And I think that's the whole reason that Candy and Phaedra have not been friends this season, is because Candy and Todd have taken Apollo's side with the whole, well, not even taking Apollo's side, just agreed that she should take them kids to see Apollo. I think probably 90% of people will probably feel the same way, but the 10% who don't, that's fine too. If you don't want to take them, don't take them. To my understanding, Apollo gets out in 5 years, which will make 8 and... Oh, child, I don't know how that boy is. I don't know. Is he 5? So 10? I don't know. They talk on the phone. They write. I don't know if they email, but they have a relationship. It's just seeing them physically. I don't know how prison works with hugs and all that good stuff. I haven't exactly been to one myself, but all right. Let's just get past that. So Phaedra says that she has not applied for a divorce, even though in the show she alludes to the fact that she was going to file for divorce. Which is why Peter says that they filed for divorce. Phaedra even says she filed for divorce in the season. She told Kenya and Claudia that she had filed for divorce. She even told Kenya that they weren't together anymore. So I guess she was thinking about it, and then at the end of the day, she didn't. My thinking is, if you remember all of this going down with the whole Angela Stanton thing, they had an agreement. If you believe Angela Stanton, Phaedra and Apollo had an agreement, and that's the whole reason that they can't get a divorce. Because some people say it's because Phaedra doesn't want Apollo to be able to testify against her, because you can't testify against your spouse. But I think it's because Apollo is gonna tell everything if Phaedra leaves. And the reason I honestly think that is because when he was leaving, the way he was talking to her that day, when he drove back and drove to the garage talking about have my stuff here and all this stuff, I think that was cold that they was talking like, look, we know what the deal is, so yeah, you need to make sure all my stuff is taken care of and all that. Because why would somebody talk to somebody like that? They're getting ready to go to prison for 8 years. It didn't make sense. But if you're talking in code and saying, look, if you know what's best for you, you better make sure everything is put together by the time I get back home and all my stuff is in a closet, laid out, earned, and ready for me to go. Then, I mean, I could just be a conspiracy theorist and be reading way too much into it, possibly. But that's what I heard. That's how I heard it when he said it. I just don't think she would. I don't think she would ever divorce him, especially with the way that it seemed like they got married just because she was pregnant. But that's just me. So she says that she has 5 degrees and she doesn't need this show, and people are too judgmental of her and some other stuff. When she said she had 5 degrees, they made me think of Khadijah off of Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, because I don't know what all Khadijah is, but she's like I think, what is she? She drives limos. She's a real estate agent. I mean, she's probably a mortician too. She might be a lawyer. I don't know. It just seemed like her and Phaedra had the same thing going on, where it's just like, we got all these hats, but I don't know. You got all these degrees, but not really doing anything with them. That is kind of, I know she don't have a mortician degree. I think it's a certificate, but whatever the other degrees are, I mean, I'm not snotting on her degrees. But what are you doing with them? Because everybody says she ain't won no cases. But other than that, I don't really know what other degrees she has, because she hasn't really talked about anything else other than being a mortician. So, I mean, it is what it is. Andy asked Kenya about kicking people while they're down and says that, somebody said that she said it, but she, did it to Phaedra. And so he asked if she reach out to Phaedra, and she said, I don't remember. Well, she should have just said no, because if she would have said no, it would have just been like, we know there's no reason she should have reached out to Phaedra, because the whole season they was fighting each other up until the very, 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 just about very last episode. So why would she reach out to somebody who didn't like her the whole season? It didn't make sense. So Phaedra was like, well, no, you didn't reach out to me, but you did, do your blogs and get publicity or whatever off of me, pretty much. And so that didn't make sense to me. The only reason why it didn't make sense is because why would she reach out to you if you didn't like her? It makes no sense to me. But it is what it is. Because Kenya had her own thing going on the whole season, trying to clear her name. And she was waiting on this apology from Phaedra the whole season. And Phaedra even said she was going to give her the apology, but never gave her the apology. So why would Kenya try to call her and ask her anything while she's waiting on her apology that she didn't get until the end of the season, which was a half apology anyway. Because she said, look, I still believe you did it. I can't change my thoughts, but I'm sorry anyway. So, I mean, it's an apology. It is what it is, but I just don't see why she should have reached out to her throughout that whole situation when they were still sitting there calling that girl a liar. He asked Phaedra about the exorcism and why she did it, because it looks silly, which it did. I mean, you're supposed to exercise. Well, it said he said it demonized Apollo. And she said, well, I wasn't doing it. I was just trying to bless the house from evil spirits or something like that. Let's just move on, because that made no sense. Then they move on to Claudia and show her package pretty much with her and Ricky Smiley, and the majority of it was her getting into it with Portia. So, pretty much her. Well, not even getting into it with Portia, trying to smooth things over with Portia, but then bringing up other stuff with Portia, like the African married man or whatever. So, I think I'm running out of voice. So, anywho, They bring Portia out after they show it, and then Eddie says, "Oh, Portia, your dress looks like Kenya's a little bit. You notice?" Portia says, "Nope, I didn't notice, but I noticed she been shopping at GoNakedHair.com." And so Kenya says, "No, I don't shop at $3bundlehair.com, but you do have the same hairstyle that I had at last reunion." And she did, but you know, it is what it is. So he asked Portia why was her and Claudia into it, why she didn't like Claudia, or what their relationship was. Portia said that their relationship is non-existent because Claudia talked about Kenya a lot. At this point, I'm thinking, is she talking recently or is she talking at the beginning of the season when Claudia first came? Because that's what happened at the beginning of the season. And so Claudia was just like, well, let me clear it up. I wasn't talking bad about Kenya. I was just trying to see if y'all could get it together or whatever from the last reunion. And I think this is why a lot of people feel like Portia's peach went to Claudia. Now, Portia says that Claudia was talking too much about Kenya. I mean, okay. And then she said that Claudia started asking around about her and wanted to know too much stuff about her. So she felt like she was trying to get some dirt on her or something like that. And she says, you know, she's very blessed, and pretty much her and Claudia were going back and forth about it because Claudia pretty much said, look, when we was in the Philippines, you pretty much told us that, you know, what we said was true. You was married to the African man and all this good stuff. And Portia was like, well, no, you're going into slanderous territory, so you need to watch what you're saying. Portia is no match for Claudia when it comes to wit. Claudia's a little bit too smart. She said she used to be a journalist, so she's not going to say anything that's not true, or she's not going to bring up anything she doesn't have facts about. Portia shut down. Portia could not win with Claudia. So Phaedra jumps in a little bit later. But pretty much, Portia just sounded so ignorant from everything she was saying. Like, I got blessings, but, you know, y'all don't. And so when she said that it was slanderous what Claudia was saying, Claudia said, you know, if you feel that way and you about that life, then sue me. That's when Portia pretty much shut down. Well, that's when she shut down from Claudia, period. Cynthia jumps in because she's saying, well, if you feel like it was slanderous of Claudia to say something about you and your relationship with the married man, then why would you come up and make this lie about Peter and him sleeping around with other women? And so Portia tells Claudia she needs to look inside, and Claudia says, you need to look inside, deep inside. Then she did a little thing where it was like opening your legs and all that stuff. And that whole little left side of the couch, everybody bikini, they was just pretty much just giving it support. I won't say poor Portia, but Portia made me just really dislike her. I mean, I haven't really cared for Portia, but just the fact that she won't own up to the fact that she should have never put her hand on this girl. I don't care. There's a lot of people who say she should have and they would have, and I feel like it was ghetto that she snatched that girl on the ground. I feel like it wasn't cause for. If nobody put their hands on you, you have no reason to put your hands on them. That's protecting yourself or whatever, standing your ground, whatever. If that scepter was not in her face, it was pointed towards her, but it was not in her face. She was talking in a blowhorn that was up to her lips, not in Portia's face. So she wasn't threatened. She said that Kenya had props, but she considers them weapons. Kenya didn't hit that girl with nothing. She snatched the darn thing out Kenya's hand before she even pulled her down on the ground. So why can't she own the fact that she should not have slung this girl down? Yes, it made good TV. Yes, it may have made her feel better. But yes, later on, you can apologize and say, look, I shouldn't have touched you. Period. I shouldn't have. You didn't touch me. I shouldn't have touched you. Now, had yourself to touch me, well, what she call it? Ooh. I can't even remember what word she made up. It wasn't scepter, though. Scepter? I don't know what she called it. But we're going to say magic wand. Since she didn't know the word. When if it would have touched her, that's different. But she snatched at the girl's hand. So how could you feel threatened if you done took the weapon, so-called weapon, and threw it on the ground? Why not just say, look, we were both heated. In the heat of the moment, I hit you. Well, I snatched you down on the ground. I shouldn't have did that. And be done with it. Because Kenya's already apologized, which she shouldn't have. I mean, she could have for making the girl feel stupid. But other than that, she didn't do, as I feel, anything wrong in that situation of where she warranted getting pulled down on the ground. I don't feel she did. Because if it was any one of us, or if it was me, and I was talking to somebody and I was giving them the business and I was going off on them so bad they felt mad, I won with my words. Why do I need to fight? But if you lost and you don't know how to argue back with me and you hit me, we're going to have a problem. Because I don't care if I'm juggling and looking at you, or I'm juggling close to you, and if I never hit you with a ball or whatever I'm juggling with or anything, you have no reason to hit me. No matter how mad you are, you have no reason to hit me if I do not actually cause a physical threat to you. So that's just how I feel about it. But the fact that Portia is saying I will never ever apologize to Kenya about slinging her on the ground, that just lets me know I'm glad. That's why she lost her peach, and that's why she won't be getting it back, and I'm glad she won't. I don't know how much she getting paid without a peach, but I'm just glad they took it. I think that was the punishment she was getting. Even though she's still on the show, she just didn't get a peach, so she's not officially a housewife, which is why she didn't sit on the couch with everybody from the jump. Pretty much, the rest of the reunion wasn't much. Andy kind of asked Nene why did she say that the thirst was real when she heard about Claudia. She had no real response to that. Let's see. He asked Claudia about stand up. She said she did it. They showed like a little small snippet of it. She said, some of the girls was there and that was good. That was cool. So if she's back on next season, I'm guessing maybe we'll see more of it or some of it or something. I haven't seen it online. Usually people post that kind of stuff online if they've been there. But, it is what it is. He asked Kenya about Life Twirls On. This part I didn't like because he said, you funded a comedy with your own money, More Media, with your own company. And she said, yeah. He said, well, isn't that a bad business move? Well, why would that be a bad business move if she can afford, one, to do her own show, and two, if it's her money, how's it a bad business deal if she's betting on herself? Now, wouldn't the Real Housewives of Atlanta be a bad business deal as an executive producer if it didn't take off after the first season? If you tried to sell it around and it's about 7 black women and nobody wants to take it after you've recorded all these hours, ain't that a bad business deal? I mean, as the executive producer. So how can you put somebody else down about doing something that you've done the same thing? Maybe he didn't financially do it, but you have to think somebody financially went and had people filming these women when nobody knew who they were. Nobody knew how it was going to turn out. It was just 7 unknown women other than maybe Deshaun Snow and Lisa Wu. I don't know. I didn't know them. But how could you say it's a bad business deal when somebody is investing in themselves unless you feel like personally you wouldn't watch the show? And I know that Andy doesn't like Kenya, but dang, he always throwing jabs at her, and I just think that's unfair. And I think he does it personally because he wants Nene to stay on the show, and so he feels like if he shows that he's cool with cool with Kenya, then Nene will, stop being his friend or something like that. They go laugh for it to be so dark. It's like 10 o'clock. All them kids. Oh, it's Friday. Okay. So anyway, back to the review. We get back to where Andy's talking to Kenya, and then this is where he brings up the whole thing with Portia not apologizing, and Kenya brings up Bloody Sunday with the 50-year Selma anniversary. And she brings up the fact that Portia's grandfather was an instrumental part of the nonviolence movement with Dr. King. And Portia's like, no, don't bring up my family. And then Andy's like, well, I think she's like saying it in a good way. And Portia said, oh, okay then. And I'm just like, oh, she's too young for this show. And I ain't gonna say, she's too young for this show. Portia don't belong on the show. She don't belong on a reunion. She don't belong on the show, period. So she brings it up, and then she says, I don't understand how she feels like it's not okay. And Portia's excuse was, this is an isolated incident. And then Phaedra jumps in with, this is an isolated incident. Ain't all fights isolated incidents? I mean, all fights are isolated incidents, right? We don't just, even when they on, even MMA fights, all of them are isolated incidents, right? Isolated fights. So, anywho, Phaedra tells Kenya she needs to read the Bible in its entirety. And she's still calling Kenya a whoremonger, which I just don't like. Andy asked Kenya if she's a better role model than Portia. Kenya says yes. I agree. She's doing a lot. She's positive most of the time, and she has her own business. She's not sleeping with a lot of dudes to get blessings, and she's doing, what she can. And she also owns her mistakes. Phaedra calls Kenya a whoremonger again, and Kenya pretty much lays it out and says, look, if I was one, I'd be the best one there was, and I would own it, unlike you. I thought that was the best moment of the night, simply because she told her what it was. She owned her stuff. It is what it is. So that's what I got. If I missed something, y'all let me know. Tell me how y'all felt about it. This video is way too long, but God bless y'all and have a good night.